Hey everybody, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me for another episode today. In this installment, we're going to be looking at a few recent pickups that all feature the same player. And this is someone who was very much the darling of the hobby throughout his playing career, especially the first, 10 years or so. In my mind, if I had to make a Mount Rushmore of the baseball card hobby, he would be one of the four faces on there, unquestionably. And that is Ken Griffey Jr. So as a kid collector in the 1990s, it was basically impossible not to be a fan of Jr. He was just, dominating the game, exciting personality, and, starting with his 1989 Upper Deck card #1 rookie card, he just became, the name in the hobby throughout the decade of the 90s, my first go around at collecting as a kid. So I've loved Griffey to this day, but his collectors are kind of like a hardcore breed in and of themselves. So I do not hardcore collect Ken Griffey Jr. I just can't afford to do that. I have too many other hobby interests, but much like I've been trying to do with Juan Soto recently, I do try to sneakily collect Griffey and pick up kind of cheap cards of his on occasion. And for whatever reason, just honestly pure coincidence, I've had a few of these roll in recently and decided to group them all together in today's video. The first batch actually comes from a YouTube channel. These are from Mike, the baseball card dude. I'm not sure if those of you watching this are familiar with Mike. I'll leave a link below if you're not. He is a Cleveland fan, lives in the state of New York, and recently Mike ran into some trouble, had a pretty significant potential home repair that was facing him, and decided to hold an online, like a live auction on YouTube or sale. And just happened to be free that night. It was actually the night of a nasty snowstorm here in New England, so I was trapped inside, nothing to do. Decided to visit the live stream, and I ended up picking up a lot of 4 Griffey cards. Now, the first one I don't recognize. This is some kind of like Broder or knockoff card. I'll free this from its screw down case, kind of beat up screw down case, but this is from the California League when Griffey was with the Spirit. It says 88 on the front. The back is blank. Don't really have a whole lot of information about this card. This is not really what drew me to the auction, but Mike had a lot of 4 Griffeys that were available at one price. It was $25 for 4 Ken Griffey Jr. cards, and this was the first of the 4. The other 3 I'm a little bit more knowledgeable on, but happy to have this one as kind of a bonus throw-in. I love oddball stuff, so I'll definitely be researching that one a little bit more after today's video. The second one is a modern insert. This is actually from the 2019 Topps release, and it's a Greatest Seasons card of Griffey. Now, I'm not big on modern inserts for the most part, so it's a little bit ironic that I paid up for this lot, but I just know a lot of Griffey collectors may keep this card, may move it at some point. What's neat about this one, it's either like a blue or a green parallel, so it is serial numbered on the back out of 299, so not ultra rare by any means, but pretty cool. It talks about Griffey's 56 home runs in 1997, the unanimous MVP, 147 ribbies, not a bad season. So that was kind of the other card along with that Broder that just convinced me to grab the lot, just to kind of get them as bonus cards. But the other 2 were the ones that I was really interested in. And the first is a Pinnacle release from the 90s. This is called the Naturals. And if you're familiar with these, they feature some really nice foil work, which is going to kind of be a theme of today's episode. So look at the way this bad boy shines. This is like the Dufex, I think it's referred to as, foil printing technology that Pinnacle was really known for in the 90s. I am a total sucker for all things Dufex, whether it's the museum collection, parallels, or Starburst, I think as they later became known, or a card like this. Just that really bright foil technology comes across a little bit different on the camera than it does in hand. Not all that much though, but it just absolutely sparkles. Been a sucker for that technology ever since the 90s. And so this Naturals card was one of the 2 that really drew me to this 4-card lot. And you can see the back actually has some foil element to it as well. It doesn't really have the Dufex. It's like more like a plain foil on the back, but a pretty neat card either way, and a 90s one that I'm very, very happy to add to the collection as a child of that decade. Just looks great. And then the 4th and final Griffey from that $25 combined lot. Was probably the most valuable of the four, I would imagine. May end up flipping this at some point. This is another modern insert, the Family Business. But what's neat about this one, you may recognize if you're familiar with this insert set, there's a little bit of gold here along the bottom, and this is the gold parallel of the Family Business insert. So it talks about Ken and his father, obviously, but what enticed me is it is numbered out of 50, copy 35 of 50. So somebody who's that big a name in the hobby, I don't really think you can go wrong, getting any card that is numbered that low. I know that's obviously not as desirable as like a base parallel number to 50 or something like that, being an insert, but I thought it was a cool card, and it was sort of just the icing on the cake that made me bite the bullet and buy that $25 lot from Mike. And also, not to be forgotten, this was an opportunity to support somebody in the YouTube community. Mike had a need, needed to drum up some funds, was going to part with some cards, and so I kind of felt like, in addition to adding some cool stuff to my collection, I was helping out a community member get through a time of need with respect to his home repair. So that was pretty cool, but those weren't the only Griffeys that I bought in the sale that Mike, the baseball card dude, had. I did get one slabbed card as well, and this is one I maybe wouldn't have actively looked for this on my own, but when the opportunity presented itself to bring this home for $15 with no additional shipping beyond what I was already paying on that lot, I snatched it up. It's from one of my favorite early 90s sets. We have the 92 Ultra Ken Griffey Jr. in a PSA 9, just classic batting pose there. I adored the first couple of these Ultra sets. Not so much the 91 gray-toned version, but 92 and 93 really took it to another level. Griffey was really in his prime. These have some of my favorite card backs of all time. Just love the amount of effort that Fleer put into designing the reverse of the card, which is something that we don't always see today. And couldn't pass up the opportunity to get that in a fine 9, which is typically my grade of choice for modern cards anyway. So when this one rolled out and became available, I just had to snatch that up. So that is the total of the Griffey cards that I brought home from Mike's sale. 5 of them total, paid combined $40 for those. Did pick up a couple of other singles, slabbed vintage cards from Mike as well. But those, I believe, are going to be repurposed into packages that I'm sending out for other collectors. So I'm not going to show those today. I'll just let those be a surprise when they show up. But I do have 2 other Griffeys that I have picked up online recently, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity to kind of mix these into today's video and show them off. So we talked briefly about the Dufex technology on that Naturals card from Pinnacle, and the 2 other Griffeys that I have to show are both from the 90s here, and they both utilize the Dufex as well. The first is an insert from 1993 Pinnacle. We have the Home Run Club Ken Griffey Jr. And this is in a CSG 9 slab. I'll spare you my CSG lecture. Just know that I really believe in this grading company. I think their slabs are fantastic, and was really happy to pull this one home. It has the Dufex, particularly in the H&R here in the background. You can kind of see it flashing, and just a really slick looking insert. I would imagine this is kind of a tough grade, having come out now almost 30 years ago, having the very sensitive, surface due to the Dufex technology, and then also being on black cardstock. This looks really, really sharp. I was expecting to kind of see some white edges or chipping here, but this card is just mint. Was able to bring this home for less than $20 on eBay. Look how shiny even the back of this is. Just a beautifully produced Griffey insert. And, I've mentioned this before, but to get slabs like this of a player of this caliber, for $20 or less, I couldn't even submit the cards on my own at that price point. And so I'm gonna soak those up any day. And that's sort of a nice segue into the final card, which also uses the Dufex technology. Got this one off of my slabs, actually, I think it was, or I may be mixing them up. This one may have come from my slabs and this one eBay, but either way, this was the most expensive card in today's video. Rang in at $30 even, but was happy to pay up for it. It is the Starburst parallel out of 1996 Pinnacle. Look at that glorious Dufex foil work. Griffey just absolutely glows on this card. These were the successors to the museum collection parallels that existed in the 94 and 95 releases. They were rebranded as Starburst for the 96 release. Just a great shot of Junior here, bat on his shoulder, $1 million smile, and just amazing shine on this. I think I was the beneficiary of this being, a lowly CSG 8. Doesn't bother me in the least. I think this is a fantastic looking card, and for $30, that is a solid addition to a collection of Griffey Jr. slabs, of which I have a few now. So that is what I have for you this morning. Just a little bundle of Griffeys that have all happened to come in recently. Definitely a really fun guy to collect. And I'll leave you, I guess, with a question in case you want to weigh in the comments. But I've been thinking recently about kind of who would be on my Mount Rushmore of baseball cards, as far as the hobby goes, not the sport of baseball, but the hobby of baseball card collecting. Who would the 4 people be that would make that? And I think 3 of them in my mind are easy selections. I feel like Mickey Mantle would be first, Ken Griffey Jr. would be second, and due to being, clearly the most popular guy in the 21st century in the hobby, I think Mike Trout would be the 3rd face on my Mount Rushmore. But I'm having trouble picking out who the 4th one would be. So what do you guys think? Shoot me some names in the comments if you have an idea. Maybe it's Nolan Ryan, maybe it's, a pitcher, somebody of that ilk, Babe Ruth, I'm not sure, but I just feel like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and those guys, they played so early and they have so few playing era cards and they're so far out of most collectors' budgets that I'm not sure they really fit the bill. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, and maybe you don't even agree with the 3 names that I threw out there, but would love to hear from you in the comments who would be on your Mount Rushmore for the baseball card hobby. And that's all I've got for now. Appreciate you sticking with me through 12 minutes of Griffey, and I'll certainly be back in the near future with some more sports card content. Until then, take care, everybody.